This is the Going Easy on Earth podcast with our expert Uma, my mom, and myself Abhishek. Well, we are getting into the topic of decarbonization. Now, decarbonization is used for removal or reduction of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. The most common recommendation for decarbonization is to switch to the usage of low carbon energy sources. An outcome of COP26, the UN Climate Summit, was a pledge by 136 countries to achieve net zero by 2050. Net zero means that greenhouse gases produced by a state, country, city, or even a building are counterbalanced by an equal amount of emission that are eliminated. Just a side note, net zero is different from zero emission. Zero emission is where no carbon or greenhouse gases are released. It is also different from carbon negative, where more carbon is removed than emitted. Now, an important way of achieving net zero is through decarbonization. And agriculture has a significant carbon footprint. Currently, some of the methods used to reduce carbon footprint are to encourage farmers, have tech interventions, have low emission spreading equipment. But all of these are solutions which involve new technology, which aren't always scalable and which are on the higher side of the expenses. So we are talking about an older practice of using natural farming to achieve decarbonization. So the first question is, where does agriculture in India stand when it comes to emissions?
Agriculture in India, as you know, India is the most populous country. So we really need to have the food security. So when we want to provide our citizens with food, and it's a very big task for the government to do. And agriculture, it happens to be the bedrock of Indian economy. It contributes 14% to the country's GDP. And 40% the employment is generated from agriculture, and 20% of the total country's emissions, greenhouse gas emissions, all come from agriculture. So agriculture is poised like this in our country. The issues here mainly are the declining soil health. That's the main thing that is resulting in the diminishing profits for the farmer. And this is due to the extensive use of chemical fertilizers, pesticides since Green Revolution. This has resulted in the depleted soil carbon levels and subsequent degradation of soil quality. So this is how we are poised now. So the measures what the government has taken so far is they have brought in an amendment bill, that is the Energy Conservation Amendment Bill in 2022, which helps to develop the domestic carbon credits, avoid carbon debt risks. Now most of the developed countries, what they do is they buy carbon credits from others because their carbon debt is so high. So they don't want such a situation for our country. So they want to avoid that such a situation, carbon debt risk, and position our country as the largest exporter of carbon credit. So this bill is mainly for this, but the bill has got the power to even promote adoption of sustainable agriculture practices and establish a regulated ecosystem for voluntary carbon credits.
So natural farming in itself is very sustainable. We know that the input cost come down, the input requirements come down, less amount of water is used, which is always good for the environment, less fertilizers or no fertilizers and no pesticides, and all of these reduce the chemicals and reduce the overall inputs. But in your paper, what you have written is quite interesting, which is not only can we reduce inputs and be more sustainable on that side, but natural farming in itself can provide a carbon sink. So how does natural farming support decarbonization?
So as we know, when we were in school, we already learned that the plants take in carbon dioxide to manufacture its food and releases oxygen. This is the basic thing that everybody knows. And sustainable agriculture, here what we mean is doing agriculture without any usage of chemical input. All inputs are chemical free, which are natural constituents like plant-based or animal-based. And in our country, since we are practicing natural farming, this is based on the 4 pillars Bijamrit, that is seed treatment. Then they call it Jivamrit and Ghan Jivamrit, that is soil fertilization methods, and then mulching with the organic matter that is available in the farm. And also the last one is building up humus. It automatically happens when all these three things are followed. And also, the crop rotation. The other things, bringing in diversity. Now what's happening is when we do conventional method, we have followed, we have left behind all this diversity that we had, crop diversity, and we just switched over to monocropping. Large tracts of farmlands, we only grow one type of a crop. So now when you do natural farming, you have to do this kind of a crop rotation in order to maintain the fertility of the soil, green manuring, compost, biological pest control, and also you can use mechanical methods to do natural farming. So everything is all of natural constituents. So we are not here bringing in any fertilizer, any chemical, not burning any fossil fuel. So these are the various ways how we do. So one is the plants take in carbon dioxide. Second, you are improving the soil quality by doing this, adding organic matter to the soil, that it becomes a natural sink. After the oceans, it's the land that is a very big sink.
And just to add to that, I think when you use chemicals and fertilizers, pesticides for a long period of time, the land mass in itself becomes hard. And when you use organic farmings, you see the land becoming more porous, more aerated, and that also acts as a sink, which is how it is supposed to be naturally, and where we have unfortunately intervened in a wrong fashion. But now with natural farming, it actually can be reversed, which takes a few years for conventional to natural, but of course that's an entirely different discussion. Now you did mention the 4 pillars. Can you also talk about a few models that support decarbonization?
In agriculture, this agroforestry model will support in a very big way for carbon sequestration. Our native Indian trees like teak, tamarind, bamboo, moringa, neem, all these have a capacity to absorb 5 times more carbon dioxide. So it is very good if the farmers can plant them along with the main crops, adopt this agroforestry model where they will have more revenue as well as diversity, and also create that carbon sink.
And one of the major questions which comes to any such change in practice or bringing in something new or an older practice back are the challenges associated. So what are the challenges that you see currently when it comes to having natural farming in general and also the decarbonization with it?
See, this decarbonization as such, it is not a very well-known subject amongst people, amongst even the educated people. So it's little difficult to understand. But however, what I would like to say in a layman's words, the more emissions, emissions into the atmosphere, you are warming up the environment, and that is creating catastrophic, as you see across the world. So many things are happening, the glaciers melting and all that, the climate change, what people now understand it, that it is really happening. So this is how we are doing. But how the challenges are, one, as I said, awareness is very poor. Second thing, there is no specific measures how to verify the soil carbon levels in the soil. That we need to improve a lot. Now what we are doing is the farmer gets a soil certificate and he knows the carbon we can make out. But when you adopt the sustainable practices, how is it changing the soil? So this monitoring, this accurately measuring, verifying the soil carbon levels, and also for this, it's a complex process lacking standardization as of now anywhere in the world, for that matter. And technological advancements such as remote sensing, satellite imagery, sensor-based monitoring system can provide the real-time data for more accurate carbon sequestration, estimation of carbon sequestration. Now, second thing is, as farmers lack this knowledge, they don't even know about carbon sequestration. They don't even know that There is a bill that has been passed. That bill can empower them, monetize for such a initiative. Nobody educates the farmer, so he is not aware. And the farmer does not even know that if he adopts this sustainable practices, he can sequester for 1 to 4 carbon credits per acre. So this lack of knowledge. So lot of awareness, educational programs have to be conducted, as well as we should have technologically very sound system to measure this carbon sequestration. These both are lacking. And third is further development of carbon markets. That is also, we are in the nascent state, I can say, in the country, and we should have a proper policy and market to support this carbon trading in India, which is very important. Until that is set up, all that we talk right now will make no sense. Though we may write a paper, we may bring in some awareness in some pockets of the society, but it should be there, that market, and create incentives. As you know, farmers are already, always they look for subsidies, incentives, and there are so many incentives, so many subsidies under different schemes. So this also needs to be incentivized and subsidized so that the sustainable farming practices will be adopted in a very big way. That's the only motivating factor I feel, because you give any sort of, now also there is direct benefit transfer for those who are adopting sustainable practices. But this will empower the farmer, will enthuse him. The more I do, the more carbon credits I sequester, the more. So it is that motivation should come unless we have that kind of a practice, and we should have a good collaboration with the agrotech companies. It will go hand in hand, and also organizations like where I am from, Art of Living, such big organizations which can bring in lot of awareness, bring in the schemes, bring in the awareness and connect the farmer with the scheme. Then it will work.
Normally in such situations, we see the big companies, multinational companies who are into agriculture and farming adopting some of the practice, especially when it comes to trading carbon credits. And without awareness, like you rightly mentioned, it is difficult to achieve that. Or having farmers who are educated or have somebody in their eco-space who is educated, but then connecting it to an incentive will always be a huge motivation. I'm just thinking from a consumer standpoint, from an individual consumer, I think we also have a lot of influence on this. Here in Hyderabad, we see farmer markets or the similar model being set up on a weekly basis, or the huge apartments bringing in different vegetables so that they have a stall once a month. And we've also seen when people start looking for fruits, vegetables, anything grown naturally, that drives the motivation, that drives the market, and we can influence that. Or even the way in which we purchase also has an impact on it. And just on the closing note is, even as an individual or living in a society, we do have influence on this process. Basically, that is asking for things which are grown naturally and thus promoting it, and eventually leading to the larger goal of decarbonization, which also ties up into the sustainable development goal set by the United Nations. So that's it for this discussion on decarbonization with natural farming. There are a lot of interesting things happening, and we'll be talking about more such sustainable topics in the future. Do drop your comments below. We would love to hear from you. Thank you for listening. This is Going Easy on Earth.
Thank you, Abhishek.